Hey guys, let's all admit, Dutch boards are a little tricky. There are a ton of videos out there and I've watched a lot of them. I wanted to continue my ocean pour series by doing a Dutch pour, so I dug in. I've learned a lot during this process, so I've made a video with my take on it, and so hopefully it helps. Also, considering it is still kind of tricky, I've put timestamps in the description box, so it'll be easy reference for you if you need to go back and see something specifically. And if you start the Dutch pour method and you're like, nah, it's not for me, then I actually have another ocean pour tutorial using the swipe method, which in my opinion is easier and also my favorite. So check that out in the description box if you're interested. But for this video, let's get to the Dutch pour. Let's talk supplies. So I'm going to weigh all of my paint in pouring medium with a scale. And here's 9-ounce plastic cups for my paints. And these are handy dandy plastic stirrers, reusable. And I like them because they're comfortable to hold, gives you a good grip, and the wide paddle part lets you press the paint very effectively for stirring. But if you don't have those, I also take 2 popsicle sticks, put them together and tape them. And this gives me a wide handle to hold on to in that wide surface area for pressing the paint for stirring. And this is US Flood Floetrol. I get it at the hardware store. I use it as my pouring medium, and I like to put pantyhose over the top of it so that it filters out any clumps that might be in there. And for my water, I just add a bit of Floetrol into it, so 14 ounces of water to 1 ounce of Floetrol. Give it a good shake and you're good to go. Now for my colors. For my white base, I like to use Artist Loft Titanium White. And for my ocean colors, I like to use a light color, a medium color in a different hue, and these two I'll combine to use for my darker color. And here are the brands and names. So Artist Loft Aqua Green, Artist Loft Metallic Cobalt Blue, Artist Loft Metallic Blue, Artist Loft Phthalo Blue, Liquitex Basics Thylocane Green. For my darker color, I combined 50% Thylocane Green and 50% Phthalo Blue. And for my beach colors, I use Artist Loft Titanium White, Artist Loft Old Gold. For the beach colors, I'm going to give you them in weight measurements instead of percentages so that they'll equal out to 2 ounces. So for the darker color, it's 1.75 Old Gold and 0.25 Titanium White. And for the lighter, it's 1.25 ounces of Old Gold and 0.75 ounces of Titanium White. Let's get started with mixing our paint and pouring medium together. So the ratio is 2 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint. It's a great starting point. So I put 1 ounce of Floetrol in first, and then I add in 1 ounce of paint. And I like putting in a bit of the Floetrol first because it makes stirring in the paint and combining the Floetrol and paint a bit easier. And then I'll add in my other ounce of Floetrol and stir that together. So for my ocean colors, I'm doing 2 ounces of Floetrol, 1 ounce of paint. For my beach or sand colors and whites, I'll be doing more so that I can get good coverage on the canvas. So ratios are a good starting point, but I do consistency checks on all my mixes, every single color. So much can affect it. You know, your Floetrol, your paint brands, your level of paint, like craft paint, student paint, heavy body paint. And later I'll show you how 2 different jugs of Floetrol, same brand, but just bought at different times, their thicknesses affected the consistency, and I'll have a visual for that later. But for now, let's get started with this one. I'm going to walk you through the consistency scale of adding water and what range of consistency to look for. Now I realize I have said consistency a lot, and what I'm talking about with that is the thickness of your mix. And here's some visuals and terms to help identify what I'm talking about. So, mound. This is the bump that forms when you pour the paint back into itself. And ribbon, this is the shape it makes coming off the stir stick. And stream. The stream can help gauge consistency with its thickness and speed. So here it is again, 2 ounces of Floetrol, 1 ounce of paint, and this is a bit thick. The ribbon is wide, the stream is kind of gloopy, kind of slow, and the mound plots down kind of onto itself and then slowly sinks into the paint itself. So here's the consistency after I've added 1/2 ounce weight-wise of water. The ribbon is a bit smaller, the stream flows faster, and the mound is a bit smaller and sinks in a bit quicker to itself. So this is my ideal consistency for Dutch pours for all my colors, but let's keep looking at what happens when you add more water. So this mix is with a total of 1 ounce of water added. The ribbon gets small really quick, the stream is faster and thinner, and the mound is really small and sinks in almost immediately. And the last one I'll do is a total of 1.5 ounces of water added. So small ribbon, the stream runs off the stick really quick, and there's basically no mound, it just sinks in right away. And here's a freeze frame so you guys can see a little bit closer about the ribbon and the mound and how it can change as you add water. So with this one, I find it's too thick. It runs the risk of your paint not wanting to flow as easily when you blow it out, so you can get kind of like weird shapes or maybe not that petal look you're going for. And this one is my personal favorite consistency, and it's what I'll use for this painting, so it's just got a really good balance. It's not too thick that it won't flow easily, and it's not too thin that you run the risk of your paint moving later on or the colors disappearing. So this consistency is a bit thinner, and I've actually done Dutch pours with this consistency and it worked great. You run the slight risk that there might be a little bit of movement after you do the blowout, but you can still get a really pretty painting with this consistency. Here's one for example with the slightly thinner consistency and still really pretty Dutch pour. I did get a slight bit of movement in the end, but overall still a good range to shoot for. And this consistency is pretty thin, and it's even riskier for unwanted movement after it's poured, and the colors could sink or disappear below the white. And here's an example, this is just a quick time lapse after pouring it and then seeing how much movement I got after 45 minutes. So this is the consistency I'll look for with all my colors today. Remember how I said even the difference between a jug of Floetrol can affect the consistency? Well, I'm mixing my aqua green up right here, and I did use a different Floetrol, same brand, just different jug, than I did for my metallic blue. And as you can see here, it is definitely a different consistency. So the metallic blue is definitely too thick, whereas the aqua green right off the bat is the ideal consistency. So both have 2 ounces of Floetrol to 1 ounce of paint. So to the blue, I've added 1/2 ounce of water, and that has achieved the same consistency that I want. So now both have ideal consistency. One needed water, one didn't. You'll get a good feel for this whole thing as you do more and more Dutch pours. And so just a good rule of thumb is to add a small amount of water, then keep doing your consistency checks so you don't have to add in more paint to get it thicker, back to thicker. So it's just easier, in my opinion, to start thick and go thin. So I'm going to mix the rest of my paints. Here's the breakdown of quantity of paints mixed for my 12-inch by 24-inch canvas. So for my ocean colors, they each get 2 ounces of Floetrol, 1 ounce of paint, and however much water for consistency. For my beach colors, each is 4 ounces of Floetrol, 2 ounces of paint, and however much water for consistency. And for my white, I used 3 cups, 3 plastic cups, so a total of 6 ounces of Floetrol, 3 ounces of paint, and however much of water I needed for consistency. Now there's an extra step you can do if you're extra detailed or if you've been trying Dutch pours and they're just not working. This could be a good troubleshooting test. You want your paints to be very close in consistency, and I saw this on a Tammy Anderson's YouTube video and she's amazing. Anyways, I've started to do this. It's a way to check your consistencies in relation to each other. So you take a dollop of each color and try to get close to the same amount and put it on the paper. Line them up so the bottom is even. Then you tilt the whole thing down and see the different speeds at which they run. Well, slow means thick and fast means thinner. So I'm going to probably add water to my aqua green, just a little to start, then check it against my darkest color because that one in white and the metallic cobalt blues seem to be running very similar to each other. So just a bit to the aqua green and give it a good stir, and I'm going to check it against my darker color. Looks pretty good. And then a bit to my metallic blue also. And the cobalt blue looks pretty good. And so I think just a splash to my darker sand color and a smidge to my lighter sand color. Now I'll check all of them again and try to get the same amount like I said, and be careful of them running off the back of the paper. And yeah, these look pretty good. Just a smidge to the aqua green and I think we're good. Okay, next is prep your canvas, and I have a quick video that goes into more detail on prep if you're curious. I'll link that in the description. But the basics are mist the back to make sure your canvas is tight and not sagging. And next, it is so important to make sure your canvas is level. I use plastic Dixie cups under my canvas to raise it up. Then I use popsicle sticks under those to get it level on whichever side needs it. So here's an up close of those. And I'm going to use the beach colors in white to visually create the shape of waves. And this will be a good guide of where I'm going to blow out my colors, kind of keep me on track. So I drizzle my beach color on in thin strips. This is so I can get a nice striation lines between light and dark sand. It also saves me a ton of paint if I put it on slow instead of just glopping it on. It might be a good idea to mix more beach paint and white paint if you just want to throw it on there real quick and not have to be meticulous. And then I use a heat gun to pop away any air bubbles. Now for the ocean colors, I do thin strips, try to keep in mind less is more. It's hard for me not to just glob on a bunch of color. And I pour more white around the colors. This is called flooding. Real quick, I noticed my middle colors have run off a bit because I got too close to the edge, so I'm going to add more. So the hairdryer technique. It's really easy to blow paint everywhere, so try for your lowest power setting and also the coolest. I use the concentrator attachment that comes with some hair dryers. It'd be really easy though to make one out of cardboard and hot glue if you don't have one. Okay, so imagine my hand is the canvas and the hair dryer is pointing just below the colors. A good way to go about it is to start high, then gently go lower, and then gently angle the hair dryer once you catch the paint. Then you just gently push the color forward. So the key word is gently. I blow the extra white paint to slightly cover my colors. This is called flooding. It will make the white a more dominant color, which I want because of the idea of foam on the waves. So for the first blowout, start high above the bottom of your colors, then come straight down until you see it start to blow your colors, then angle the hairdryer forward and gently keep moving it until you get it to the distance you want. So for each of the waves, I stop blowing out about an inch into the beach color. This will give me room to manually blow out the pockets of paint and to unify the shape of the waves. I'm just going to blow out this center one a bit more to get a little bit of those pockets of color underneath. So when I say pockets of color, I'm talking about the edges of the petals. You can see color right under the white. I like to manually blow out these pockets to reveal some of that color, and it will also help create a unified wave shape. Okay, at this point in the process, I forgot to hit the record button. I was very caught up in everything. Thankfully I caught it, but I did miss two of the steps I wanted to show you. So I actually used day-old paint and recreated a mini version of this painting to show you those two steps. So here we go. Okay, one of the steps is to use a piece of plastic to lightly run over the beach colors to create a more subtle look instead of the harsh lines. So you just start at one edge, lightly set it down, and then drag it across. So the next step is how to manually blow out the pockets of color. So by mouth you can get a pretty but much smaller petal shape than with the hairdryer, but you have lots more control. You can also use a straw, but those will be a little bit thinner, like streakier blowouts. So here we go. The idea is to drill down and then push it forward. So let's do a slow-mo. You can see it's straight down, just blowing straight down and then moving it forward. And you can only go as far as your breath can take you, but it's a pretty good amount. And you see here how the petals kind of shrink back? That's a consistency thing. This mix was on the thinner side because it was day-old paint and I went a little heavy-handed on the water. So that target consistency that I told you about will hold that petal shape more, and you'll see that on the actual painting when I get back to it. I just wanted to show you what it's like to use a straw. So you still have a lot of control, but they do tend to be thinner or smaller in shape. Okay, back to the real painting. I already blew out a lot of it manually, but wanted to extend it out a bit more, so did a second little round. Here I have too much white, and I'm going to do a double Dutch to add in some deeper colors. I'm pouring color strips on again, no white this time since I want it to be darker. And here we go. My goal is to not push these petals up as far, so I'm stopping about 2.5 to 3 inches below the tops of the first petals, and I'm keeping in mind the general wave shape I'm going for while blowing these out. I also wanted to note, I don't recommend you use the hairdryer too much on each petal, so like 1 to 2 times on each petal, because the more you overwork them, they can get jagged, the colors can muddy, so it can just create a multitude of problems. So then I use my heat gun again. Okay, looks pretty good. I'm just going to do some manual blowouts to transition the double Dutch pour together to make it look like it's one wave. I'm cautious with how much blowing out and in what direction, even with the manual blowout, because it can look chaotic really quick. Alright, there it is, folks. Let's get in for a close-up. So one of my favorite things about Dutch pour is this almost ethereal fading and gradation that you can get, and I just love how these petals transition. And of course you can get some cells in there too, and I like where the wave, what I'm calling the wave, meets the beach because that tan comes through, and so it just looks really elegant and flowy. So thank you guys for watching this tutorial. You made it, and hopefully you get to make a really beautiful Dutch pour. If you're interested in another ocean pour painting tutorial, like I said, I've got the swipe one, and I have that link in the description. I plan to keep up with my ocean series and exploring different techniques and releasing those tutorials. So like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you're interested in any of my new content. Thank you guys so much again for watching.